Hi everybody, this is Bonnie Barker with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I have something really fun. This is Bonnie's Granny Square vest, and I'm wearing the version with fringe right now. Let me go ahead and give you the back side. And you can also make this without the fringe if you're not a 70s fringy girl like I am. Let me show you what this looks like right here. So this project was a lot of fun for me. It's a wonderful stash buster if you have a lot of colors that you're just not sure what to do with. Well, this is the time to get them all out, even those little tiny scraps, because it really doesn't matter. You don't have to have certain amounts of certain colors. You can make this just a lot of fun. For this particular project, since it is in the heat of the summer, I made it out of 100% cotton, but feel free to use acrylic if you would like, or whatever you have on hand. And I'll show you the yarn that I used for this project in just a minute. But this was just a lot of fun for me. It was a chance for me to go back to my roots, because the very first project I ever worked on more than 50 years ago was working granny squares. Well, let me go ahead and show you what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using Hobby Lobby's I Love This Cotton. Let's look at the stats on this. This is 100% cotton. Each of the balls has 180 yards or 3.5 ounces. And I am going to be using these 4 colors plus the white, and the number of balls that you will need will be right across the bottom of the screen, or you can check the video description below. And for the record, this is a softer, easier to use cotton, and it is a number 4, which is a worsted or Aran weight yarn. I'm also recommending that you have a size I or 9 or 5.00 millimeter crochet hook, and as always, a yarn needle and a pair of sharp scissors handy. Alright, before I begin, I wanted to cast a vision for what the square is going to look like. So this has a total of 6 rounds, and let me count them for you. This will be the first round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rounds of these 3 double crochet clusters, and I'll show you how to start this and everything. Well, let's go ahead and get started. But before I do, I just also wanted to mention that there are many variations on how to make the traditional granny square. So just keep that in mind, and the method that I'm showing you is just the one that I prefer after seeing many different ways of doing this. To begin, we're obviously going to use the neutral color or the main color for the project. And we're going to make a slip knot, just like so. If you are a beginner when it comes to crochet and you need more of the fundamentals on crocheting, please check the video description below, where I have a list of beginner projects, and at the very bottom of that list are the stitch videos. There's also a video called Everything You Know to Begin Crocheting Now. It has a picture of a yellow ball of yarn on the thumbnail, and that has a lot of the information that might be very helpful if you are very new to crochet. Well, let's go ahead. We're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to make a slip stitch in that very first chain, just like this. Slip, stitch, and as you can see, we've formed a very small ring, or what I like to call a Cheerio, or a very tiny donut. We're going to chain 3. Now we are going to work only going directly into the center for all the stitches of round 1. For the purposes of this particular project, the chain 3 will count as a double crochet in the stitch counts, and well, it does, let's just say it counts as a double crochet, and you'll see why in just a minute. And we're going to make 2 double crochets right alongside that chain 3, chain 2, 1, 2, Then we're going to work 3 more double crochets, but as I'm working, I am crocheting on top of this strand. You don't have to do it this way, but it does make it easier when it comes to hiding these strands later on. And I know that that's a controversy, that some people will say that you should never do this. Well, I'm of the belief that there are some occasions where it's fine to crochet over those loose strands, and this is definitely one of them. Okay, after we work those 3 double crochets, we're going to chain 2 again, and we're going to work 3 more, again working over that thread. We're going to work 3 double crochets, again just working into that little donut or a little Cheerio here. And I'm going to chain 2, and again 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3, and then we're going to chain 2, and we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top, to the 3rd chain, which again also acts as a double crochet with a slip stitch, just like that. Now if you look at it, let's go ahead and take a look. This is the end of row number 1, and this, we have formed 4 chain 2 spaces, which will act as the corners going forward. And you can see, while this does not look exactly like a double crochet from a distance, it has the exact appearance, well, not exact, but a very, very similar appearance. So as you can see, this chain 3 takes the space of another double crochet, and it's just a great way to work these granny squares. Now there are many methods where you can chain 3 and turn, but I'm going to show you the continuous, it's not a continuous method, but you will continually have the front side of the stitches facing, and I kind of like this effect. We're going to work a slip stitch in the next 2 stitches, just like so, and then a slip stitch in the next chain 2 corner. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to form our very first corner. In this chain 2 space, we're going to work 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Again, this chain 3 is acting as a double crochet. Okay, so let's pause. So we have formed our first corner. I am not going to make any chains in between the clusters when we are not working corners. So instead of making a chain here, I'm going to do nothing. I'm going to go right into the very next corner, which is going to be 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets. And go to the next corner. We're going to work another corner. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. And the last corner. 3 double crochets, chain 2, and get some more yarn and work 3 more double crochets. And now we are going to join with a slip stitch to the very first, or the top, or the first chain, or depending on how you look at the chain, it's the top chain of that chain 3, the slip stitch, and this is what you should have after 2 rounds. Now let me show you the 3rd round. These are all very similar, it's just that they will be adding a cluster as we make each round. They'll be adding a cluster to each side. So we slip stitch in those next 2 stitches, and then slip stitch into the chain 2 space, chain 3, and we make another corner. You should be getting good at these. 2 double crochets, again because the chain 3 acts as that third double crochet, chain 2 and 3 more double crochets worked all in the same place. Okay, so now we have something different. We have a space along the side, and when you get to that, we just go right into working 3 double crochets. Let me just pause a second. I know many of you may have worked this granny square, and I have done the same thing where you have chains in between the clusters. Don't do that for this particular design because that will add width to the size of the squares, and it might make them a little more wonky for what we're going to be doing. So anyway, so just go right into the next stitches. So now we come to a corner, and whenever you come to a corner, you always work them the same way. Once you get past that first corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. And then we come to a space that's not a corner. We simply work 3 double crochets in that space. And then again, coming to another corner. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this round. At the end of round 3, we join in the same manner at the top of that chain 3 space with the slip stitch, and then we're going to slip stitch our way to the corner by slip stitching in those next 2 double crochets and into that chain 2 space, chain 3, and again 2 double crochets. I know I'm repeating myself, but this chain 3 acts as a double crochet in this design. Chain 2, and then 3 double crochets, all worked in that same space. Now as we come to round 4, we have 2 spaces that are not corners, and I just wanted to be sure to show you how to work these because I'm not going to show you specifically rounds 5 and 6 because they are worked the same way, just you will have more clusters to work, and they again just go straight from the corner to the next space and work 3 double crochets, go to the next space, work 3 double crochets, which brings us to another corner, and I'll go ahead and finish this corner with you. Chain 2 after those 3 double crochets, and then 3 more double crochets. So I'm going to continue around in the like manner around the square, joining with a slip stitch to the top of that first, or to the top of the chain 3, and then I will do 2 additional rounds until we have a total of 6 rounds for our square. You're going to need to make 3 squares like this one, and this is what it looks like with the 6 rounds. You're going to need to make 3 of these for this particular design. At the end of round number 6, join with a slip stitch to that first top chain of that chain 3, and let's go ahead and give it a chain so we can fasten off. Make sure you leave a decent size strand. I would say anywhere from let's say 5 to 6 inches, so that you can thread this into a yarn needle once we start getting ready to put these together, because you're going to want to have an easy way to hide this strand, and I'll show that to you in a bit. Okay, so our square is complete, and again, let me count these rounds for you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You should have 1, 2, 3, 4 clusters in between each corner. Let me also give you a measurement. This is approximately 7 inches wide, 7 inches tall, since we are making squares. So just wanted to give you that measurement going forward, although this may have some ease built in. Ease meaning, stretchability to some extent. Okay, so just wanted to give that to you. So let me show you how to make the colorful granny squares now. Now this is where the fun really begins. There are many, many more color combinations, but these are 8 of the 9 combinations that I will be using in this design. I'm going to show you how to make yet a different one where I use yellow in the center and blue around round 2 in just a second. But just to show you what I am doing, and of the 9 possibilities, what I am doing is I'm making 4 of each color combination, and I am going with a varied selection. Another possibility is just to select one square color combination and make them all the same. And in case that you do that, you're going to need 36 of these. Now I'm using the white as the neutral color around the outside. This is very important so that when we sew these together, it will minimize the visual effect of the seams that we're going to be using. Now another excellent neutral color could be black. You could really use any color for the neutral color, but whatever you do, just make sure that the third round is using the same color that we worked the large granny square with. Well, let me go ahead and show you how to make these and switching colors with each round. Round 1 of the colored squares is basically the same as with the larger white square, but I'm going to go ahead and work that with you anyway, so you don't have to back the video up. We're going to make a slip knot, chain 4, and again join with a slip stitch to that first chain to make our little Cheerio. Chain 3, and then working in the center, make sure you go all the way into the center. We work 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. Again, I'm working over that loose strand, and I'm going to be talking more about that as we go forward and changing the colors. Chain 2 and 3 more double crochets, all worked into that center. Chain 2 and then 3 more double crochets. Now I'm going to make a chain 2, 1, 2, slip stitch to that first, or the top of the chain 3 that is pretending to be a double crochet, and then we're going to fasten off. I'm going to just work a chain and a tug, pull it kind of tightly there, and I'm going to cut a decent strand, although you don't need this strand to be terribly long, because the way I'm going to show you, although if you want to go ahead and weave this into the stitches, you can do it that way. I'm going to show you how to work around this stitch on the next round. But let's go ahead and trim these strands as you go. Make sure that you don't trim the actual stitches, but you want to trim these close. Now let me show you. I did work around that stitch, and there is no way that this is coming out with 12 or 11 stitches worked on top of it. You're never going to see that little thread again. So that's why I'm saying in some cases it's not a problem to just crochet on top of the strands. I've been doing it for probably more than 50 years, and I have never seen a problem doing this with particular designs. I will clarify that. In other situations, it is better to just weave them in. But what we're doing here, I think, is going to be fine. So again, I know that's controversial out there, but hey, I have some experience to speak from here. All right, so now I'm going to join another color, in this case, the really pretty blue. And I'm going to make a slip knot. Now, I already stuck my hook into that before I make that slip knot. And now I'm going to bring it into one of the chain 2 spaces. Don't do it in this chain 2 space where we just fastened off, but in another. And I'm going to join with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and I am going to crochet on top of this thread, and I'm going to make a corner, 2 double crochets, chain 2, and now we're going to work 3 double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And I want to just stop and look at this. This thread has been crocheted over with 5 stitches, and this cotton that I'm using is not slippery yarn at all, so there's plenty of friction that's going to keep that strand in there from this point on. Okay, and we're going to trim that in just a second. Now for this one, I'm going to bring the strand this direction, and I'm going to crochet 6 stitches. Let's go ahead and pull that a little bit. Pull 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. And you can see even the knot is hidden, and this thread is quite secure under 6 of those stitches. Now we go to the next corner. We crochet 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 more double crochets, just the same as what we did with the white yarn. It's just that we are just changing colors, but I do want to show this to you, to show you how to do this, because I know connecting and disconnecting the yarn is an area that can trip up a lot of crocheters. To the next corner, doing another chain 3, I'm sorry, not chain 3, this is a 3 double crochet cluster, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Join with a slip stitch to that first, or that top chain 3, and we're going to fasten off again. And this one you want to make sure that you leave a nice long thread, and I'll show you why. Okay, now first thing we're going to do, I'm going to trim these stitches that have already been secured by working over them. There's one here, and there's one here. Now for this thread, if you work over that, there are only going to be 3 stitches holding it, and that, in my estimation, is just not near enough. Let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to weave this end into the square before we work our next round. I highly recommend that you stop and work this in. Trust me, it's easier to do it now than to have about 1,000 of these to do at the end of the project. So I'm going to just weave this in carefully. I'm going to go down the chain, working this around. And then I'm going to run it under these 3 stitches and then these 3 stitches. Now if you are not comfortable crocheting over your ends, you can certainly do all of them just the way I did here, and that would be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and trim this again ever so carefully, but don't cut your stitches. And so now I just wanted to show you, you don't see any ends anywhere, and it really didn't take that long. One other thing I wanted to be sure to mention is that I am careful that the front side of the stitch is facing me. Now, if that doesn't matter so much to you, you can turn and, you know, have the back side facing every other round, however you wish to do. I really think that either side, the front side or the back side, looks absolutely beautiful, which is why this can potentially be a reversible project. But anyway, I am just showing you here, this is what the front side looks like, and I'm going to be diligent to make sure that the front side is always facing as I join my yarn. You can join in any of the 4 corners with round 3, and this is the last round for these colorful squares. Go ahead and work my slip knot again. Notice that I did put my hook into the corner and then working the slip knot. It's just something that I've grown comfortable doing. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to work around just the same as we've been doing. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then we work 3 double crochets. And again, I am working over this loose strand. 6 or 5 stitches here should be plenty to secure that. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and trim. And again, if you're not comfortable doing this, you are certainly free to take the time to just weave this in, but I would do that after this round is complete. Okay, so then we work a 3 double crochet cluster in the next space. And then that brings us to another corner, and you should know what to do at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this. I'm going to go ahead and finish this corner and finish this square, and I will show you the fasten off and hiding of this loose strand one more time. And round 3 ends by working a slip stitch to that first or the top chain 3 and give it a chain and a tug. Let's go ahead and clip a generous strand here so we can make sure that's nice and tight. And let's go ahead and thread this. I usually work these in with the back side facing, but honestly it really doesn't matter on these because the placement of this strand is the same. So I'm going to go down here, come over to the chain. I do like to work it around the chains. Well, let's try that one again. Make sure when you pull it down, give it a pull back a little bit too, so that it's not, let me show you what I mean. You don't want to pull it down real tight and leave it like this because it's kind of, that stitch is kind of compressed. Just pull back a little bit, because if you don't pull back on it now, it will pull back later and it may pull the stitch out from under this hidden stitches. So you want to make sure that it's comfortably hidden under there, just like that. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and give this a nice close trim, but make sure your stitches are safe. All right, so this is what we have. So go ahead and like I mentioned before, we need to make 3 more of this design if you're following the way that I am completing my project. So you'll need 9 different variations of the colors that you are using, and I would make 4 of each variation. Now that I have all my squares complete and all the strands hidden in each, I just wanted to show you how I've laid these out on a surface, and I was just very careful that none of the squares that are the same are going to be facing each other. So for example, this is the center panel in the back. This will be one side, and then the other side here. And I was just being careful to make sure that none of the duplicate squares are facing each other. Okay, so you're going to want to maybe do that and organize it, and maybe even photograph it so that you don't forget, because trust me on this one, it's very easy to get these mixed up once you've decided where you want them. Okay, so now let me go ahead and show you how to sew these together. I also wanted to give you the measurement of each of these squares. So as you can see, they are approximately 4 inches across, and of course will be 4 inches in height as well. Now I've taken the top 4 squares for the back, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to sew these together. I have the front sides facing. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and put those front side facings together, and the seam is going to be in the middle. So let's go ahead and do this. And I'm going to make the seam across here. I'm going to join in the chain 2 corner. Now you can slip stitch these together. However, if you do it this way, if you slip stitch them together with a crochet hook, it's going to leave a seam. So I'm trying to avoid that. So I'm going to split this yarn. There you go. Just like that to attach. Let's go ahead and move these out of the range of view there. Okay, so notice that I do have a nice long tail, so that will be easier to hide. And I'm going to work through both loops. There are going to be 3 per cluster, so make sure that you do line these up as carefully as you can. And I'm going to use a sewing stitch called the whip stitch, which is fairly easy. And just run the stitch under each, and we are just kind of looping it around. So the most important thing here though is that we just do this nice and evenly. And I'm going to do a few more of these, and I will finish this side, and then I will show you how this looks once we open it back up again. And I will say that this is where it's important that you photograph the layout of your squares with your phone, because it'd be very easy to get this confused and then, you know, have to rethink the wheel again as far as the color coordination and so forth. As you can see, this is not super speedy, but I do think it's going to produce a better result for all the time that you've already invested in this. And then we're going to do another one in the chain 2 space. Okay. So let's go ahead, and when we open it, we see that it looks quite nice, and really both sides will be acceptable. Of course, these strands will be hidden. After working this all the way across, go ahead and work another loop, and we're going to work a slip knot. After that slip knot, let's make sure that we do leave a nice size tail so that we can hide these under the stitches when we're finishing. As you work to attach the large square to the small squares, you are going to have a lack of extra corners here and here. There's an easy solution to this. After you connect these 2 stitches, you can work an additional whip stitch from the same stitch into the chain 2 corner, and then with this next stitch, work a whip stitch between this stitch, which was right here, and the chain 2 corner, and then use it again as you connect these 2 tops of those stitches together. Okay, so go ahead and just continue connecting these squares. Once you connect the complete top across here, then what we would do to connect the ones along the side is just simply fold over, and then you can connect more of the squares along the side. Just wanted to give you an update on my progress on sewing these together. As you can see, there are going to be a lot of loose strands to hide, but that's okay. We know how to do that. Okay, I'm going to now, let me show you what I have here. These are sewn together, but of course these seams need to be sewn. And I have the bottom 4 sewn together, so I'm going to add that once I begin attaching. I'm going to attach this middle square, and I'm going to show you the part where I go through the corners just so there's as much clarity as I can possibly give you on sewing these together. So I'm going to sew around here, attach the corners to the corner here. I'm going to go along the edge and then up the side, and then attach these two remaining. Now we've come to the part that I was explaining earlier, where you have each of these clusters that we are lining up, but on the other side you have these two chain two corners. So this is what I'm recommending you do, and this will work out fine. Go ahead and use the same of the 1, 2, the third cluster over. Go ahead and use that same hole 2 times and work the second stitch into the chain 2 corner. Okay, and then to go to the next stitch, the first stitch of the next cluster, which lines up with the first cluster of this other square, and work this into the chain 2 corner first. That will help tighten up those corners just a bit, and then use that same stitch again and work it into the first stitch of the cluster on the other square opposing it. Okay, so that way your stitches still are lined up and everything works out. So I'll go ahead and finish this up and show you what I have. Okay, once you have completed sewing your squares together, make sure you do this for all 3. I'm going to show you how to do additional rounds around the entire perimeter of these squares. Now, depending on the size that you want to make will determine how many rounds you're going to need to work. I am going to work approximately 3 rounds for the medium to large size. And again, these sizes are not as hard and fixed as they would be in a more fitted top, because this is an outer garment to be worn and it doesn't have to be, closed in the front. Well, let's go ahead with a slip knot. We're going to chain 3. We're going to start out by making a corner first, which, as you recall, you add 2 more double crochets, chain 2, and then 3 double crochets. And we're just going to continue in the same way by working 3 double crochets in those spaces in between. But when we get to the place where this is joined in just a second, we are going to be working this. There'll be a slight variation in how we work these corners. Okay, so now we've come to the first corner, and if we work a cluster here and a cluster there, it really is too many stitches. So what we're going to do is we're going to work 1 cluster over these 2 corners as follows. Work 1 double crochet. Now we're going to work part of a double crochet. This is actually a decrease we're working here. Wrap our hook. So we have 2 double crochets that we have worked halfway. Let me back that out and do that one more time just so I'm super clear here. Wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Let me do that again. Wrap the hook, but we go into the next chain 2 corner, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and add an additional double crochet. I know that looks a little funky right now, but don't let that worry you, because we have 2 more rounds to complete, and that's going to bring these stitches together a little bit, but it will help to unify these, the outer edging of these squares. It'll help eliminate any irregularities. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Any irregularities here that you may be uncomfortable with looking at it just the way it is now. Don't worry about that, because the next 3 rounds are going to smooth a lot of that out. So let's go ahead. I'll do this for you one more time. We come to another place where those chain 2s meet. We work a double crochet in that first stitch, wrap the hook, insert, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to do that again. Wrap the hook, go into the next chain 2 corner, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops on the hook, and then add an additional double crochet. And like I said, this is going to look better once we work additional rounds. And then we just continue on all the way around. And let me just give you some verbal information here. When you get to the corner of the entire larger square, we're going to work a corner, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, and then continue all the way around. So I'll go ahead and work this around, and I will show you the final join at the end of this round and how to go to the next round. At the end of this round, we're going to join with a slip stitch to that first chain of that chain 3, which does serve as a double crochet. Now I'm going to slip stitch to the corner, just like we've been doing all along. Now do check if you're making an extra small, you may need to just fasten off at this point. You probably don't need additional rounds. I will put a little thing right in the corner up here that will show you how many rounds that I recommend for the various sizes, or you can check in the video description below. It will also be in the written pattern that will be available in my Lovecraft store. Okay, so we're going to chain 3. This is beginning the second perimeter round of these large squares. I'm going to work 2 double crochets again, because that chain acts as a double crochet in this project. Chain 2 and 3 more double crochets worked in that same space to form a corner, just like we've been doing. And then I'm going to just work a couple of these across with you for this second round. By the way, the third round is worked the same way. You will just obviously have more clusters in those rounds. I just wanted to show you how much better it's going to look at the joins once we work a few of these clusters in that vicinity. Let's get through all the strands. Now we've come to the first place where that first join was located. Then we just go to the next, working in between. We're not having to do any of the decreases or anything. So you can see it does help to camouflage this. If you go hunting for these in your work, you will find them. But honestly, to anybody else looking at this project, they are not going to stand out, I don't believe. And even if they do, it's just part of the design. It's not a problem. Let me just work a couple more of these as I go across. And of course, when we add one, or let me pull that one out. I looked a little bit on the big side. Once we work this round and another round, and if you're making an even larger size, you can just, work additional rounds. These stitches are not going to be prominent in the work. Okay, so let's stop and take a look. And you can see how they blend in quite well as we go around. So go ahead and finish the second perimeter round. And if you're making the same size as me, which is the medium large, I'm going to work a third round. So go ahead and work this round, one additional round in the same manner. And again, if you were working the larger sizes, work even more until you get the width. And let me just explain what we are shooting for here. The width across, or it could be up and down since this is a square. What you want to do is get the width to be the size that you need to go across the back, And again, check the pattern for the exact sizing on that, or you could hold this up to one of your favorite sweaters and match the distance across the back from underarm to underarm. Okay, so once you do that, if you match that to a garment that you already love to wear, it will be a better fit. Okay, now once you have your squares completed, and this is including having them sewn together and the 3 rounds of the clusters about them. Now again, if you have larger sizes, you may have more rounds. Either way, just make sure that the distance across is approximately the distance that you want the piece to be across your back. Okay, and it would be from the place under each underarm across the back side. Okay, now that I have the front side facing, that's on purpose so that when I put these other pieces on top, I'm going to have the front side facing inward, so that when I complete the seams that I'm about to tell you or show you, so that when we flip it the right side out, that the front side or whichever side you want to be facing outward shows. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take another one, and do be mindful of the way the squares are, and you just want to be sure that you're placing these squares so that there are none being duplicated, or you don't mind if one faces another. So taking that into consideration, I think I am going to switch mine this direction so that the two that were here before are not the same. Okay, so nothing is the same, which is kind of the goal that I'm going for. And so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to fold this back a little bit because this is just one of the sides. I'm going to use these things. They're called knit clips. You can use pins if you want. These are just a lot safer than pins. I will try to remember to put a link in the video description. These are originally manufactured by the Susan Bates Company. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin the amount that I want to be the top seam. And so what I've decided I'm going to do is I'm going to work that across 1, 2, 3, 4. It will be 5 clusters for me, but let's go ahead and get the measurement going here. For my size, it's approximately 5.5 inches. Okay. Now I'm going to fold this back because I'm only going to work this seam. Well, let me go ahead and do the other one as well. Let me just fold this back gently like that. And again, I'm going to put the front side facing downward, and I'm going to check just to see if I like the way that is lining up, and I do with the square. So I'm going to put that on top, and I'm going to, using my knit clips, go ahead and here we go. These are big ones. They do make smaller ones that would work just as well. Again, if you don't have this, don't have to run out and buy this. You can just use pins. I would use pins though with big, big balls on the top, big, fixtures, so that they're not easily lost in your carpeting or in your crafting area. Okay, so let me make sure that this is the same as what I did here. Okay, so yeah, that should be about right. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this, I'm going to fold this one back a little bit because we're still not done. Okay, so that will be the top seams. Let me push it down there a bit. So these will be the top seams of the top or of the vest that you're going to be sewing. Now there's another seam. Let's go ahead and show you how to section that off. And again, we're just going to line these up, and depending on the size that you are making, I'm going to actually have a more generous armhole than what I normally would have. I'm going to go for about 8, and maybe even 8.5. I'm going to go for 8 inches. Okay, so 8 inches would bring me from the corner, there's the corner cluster, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, through the 6th cluster there. So I'm going to sew through the 6th, or starting, let me try this again. Starting from the 6th cluster, okay, this part I want it to remain open. Okay, you can begin by joining here. That's what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and just move that. Okay, so I'm going to start by joining in between the clusters, and I'm going to go ahead and close the rest of these. So let me show you, so that my seam will start here and go down the side. Okay, now let's do this to the other side as well. And I want to make sure that what I do here is symmetrical to what I've done on the other side. So I am working from this point on down. So I will make another seam here to here. I've run out of my knit clips, so I'll have to rearrange that in just a bit. So what you can do at this point, if you think you have it situated, you can actually, if you're careful, try this on to see, even though it's inside out, try it on to see if that's the way you want the vest to fit. If you think you need to make more rounds, you can, but this is the time to do that before we sew it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, just to review, I'm going to sew the top seams here. Okay, this one. And the top seam, these are the top shoulder seams. And then I'm going to sew the side seams here and here. So go ahead and do that. You can do that the way I showed you with the whip stitch using the yarn needle, or if you would like, you can even slip stitch with your crochet hook and a slip stitch. So go ahead and put that together, and then I will show you what to do after that. Okay, now we have our vest shrug all together in one piece. Now I'm going to show you how to work a simple stitch, just an edging all the way around. This is just going to be working a slip stitch around the armholes. Those will be worked each separately, and then one around the entire circumference of the outlining of this project. I'm going to go ahead and start by finding, I'm going to start in the back, on the back side. It really doesn't matter where you start. And I'm going to join my yarn again with that little slip knot and the chain. And I'm going to work simply a slip stitch, and I'm going to work this all the way around the project. Again, this is an option. You don't have to do this, but I think this will help to give the project a little bit more of a shape. Now, as you work the slip stitch, do be careful not to pull this too tightly. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work this all the way around. I'll at least get you to the first corner, and then I'll show you how to proceed from that point on. And again, just working this nice and loosely, and you can just see how this adds a little finish to this. So now that we're approaching the first corner where the chain 2 corners were joined, I'm going to work in each of those next 2 stitches, and I'm going to go right over to this chain 2 corner. The goal here is to just make sure that there is an even transition and that this row of slip stitches just kind of evens out the joint a bit so that it doesn't look so stressed. So I'm going to just continue on, and I'll show you the join once I complete this entire perimeter round. Just to be extra clear, I also want to show you how I am turning my corners with these slip stitches. Slip stitch there, and again, just like we did before, slip stitch in that next stitch, slip stitch in the chain itself, and then back to stitching in the tops of the stitches just like that. So I'll show you how that looks once you turn the corner. Okay, I'm going to end the perimeter round with a slip stitch in that next stitch, and the same place where you joined the first stitch, I'm going to work a slip stitch and then end with a fasten off, and find my sharp scissors. There we go. And cut a nice long strand. And so of course I will weave this in, and you can just see how this has smoothed out a lot of the connections. So now I'm going to work the armholes. So now working on the underarms, this will be at the very bottom. This will not be seen when you're wearing this. And so we're going to begin with a slip knot, join in the same way with that chain, and then we're going to slip stitch again, just in every stitch around. I also want to make mention that if you find that your slip stitches are just too tight, using the regular eye or 9 hook, or the hook that you used for your gauge hook, feel free to upsize the hook to the next size so that the the slip stitch will be reasonably relaxed, because you don't want this super tight changing the way this fits. That's not the goal. The goal is just to make this edging look a bit neater and kind of unify the project better. And if you find that you don't like the way this looks, feel free to omit it, or even do a different, maybe even using a single crochet around. Okay, so feel free to change that up, or even just to omit this all the way around. But I'm going to go ahead and finish off both arms, thinking that it's going to leave a much nicer finish. All right, now I want to show you a quick and easy way to make even fringe for your shrug, should you wish to add this to your design. Okay, now you can make the fringe any length you want. I've picked a book, a nice sturdy book from my collection. You can also use a piece of firm cardboard, anything that's not going to be real bendy as you wrap yarn around. I've measured the distance from here to here. This is 8 inches, and you have about ½ an inch for the binding. So total, as I wrap the yarn around, each strand that I cut is going to be approximately 17 inches long. And then of course we're going to fold that in half. So in other words, with a 17-inch piece of yarn, that's going to yield an 8.5 inch, or about an 8-inch fringe. And of course, if you need to trim this, which we will be trimming the fringe, that will be affected by the overall number. So that's why I'm not as precise as the measurement you would think it would be. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to just wrap this yarn around the book. Okay, and we can do this many times. And let me mention one other thing. Depending on how thick you want the fringe to be, that will determine how many strands you are going to need. I have exactly 48 spaces for the fringe tassels. So I'm going to make a total of 48 times 4 for the wrapping, so that these tassels will be 4 strands long. So let me go ahead, and I'm going to just continually wrap this around the book. Okay, after wrapping this around about 40 or so times, I'm going to hold this last strand here. And you may want to use a bigger pair of scissors, but this is the sharpest pair that I have right now. You're just going to cut the strands, and I've counted again 40, so that'll give me 10 tassels. So I'm going to do that in any multiple you want, really, but I'm just using the multiples of 10. And let's go ahead and take these. And so now we have enough yarn for 10 tassels. So I'm going to go ahead and continue this until I have enough for a total of 48 tassels. Of course, if you're making the smaller size, you won't need as many, and if you're making larger sizes, you will probably need several more. Now I'm getting ready to add fringe to the bottom, and I'm going to have the back side of the work facing me as I add fringe to the bottom of the shrug. Now I've taken 4 strands, and I'm going to line them up as closely as I can so that they are fairly even. And if it's not perfect, it's not a problem because we will be trimming this at the end. All right, so let's kind of smooth this out a little bit with our fingers. And then what we're going to do is fold over our finger and have the ends match up about like that. And what we want to do here in doing this is we want to have the absolute center right up here. So I have that centered on my hand. And again, backside facing us. This is the corner, bottom corner. Stick the hook in here. All those 4 strands over the hook, pull them through, and then put all the strands over that, and pull them all through, and give it a little tug. And there you go. The first tassel is complete. So let's go ahead on to the next one. So one more time, I'm going to line these strands up. Smooth them out with my finger there so that they're not too tangled. Okay, and line these up so that they are about the same. And now I have the center part, which is right up here. And let's look at the next space, which is right here. It says the space in between the clusters. Yarn on the hook, pull it through, put all the strands over that again, and pull it through again. So it's very important that this side of the knot, I think, is the nicer side, that is showing with the front side facing. Okay, let's look at the back side just for a reference. That's what the back side of the knot would look like. So traditionally, this is the front side. But again, if you have a preference for the other side to show, feel free to do it however you wish. So I'm going to go ahead and put these tassels in each space in between the clusters. Now to trim the fringe, we simply hold it nice and still and evenly. And you can take maybe an inch or so, or whatever you need off. I have plenty of room here to take an inch off, so I'm going to do that with all of these tassels. And again, if you're not, it doesn't have to be exact. This is not one of those things that's really going to be caught by the eye. So, you know, you can just generally estimate. There we go. Just make sure that you do have a sharp pair of scissors so that when you cut the fringe, it'll look nice and even. And if you need to beforehand, if you feel like you need to use a handheld steamer to steam the yarn, feel free to do that, and that'll take any waviness out. Well, I hope you enjoyed making Bonnie's Granny Square vest with me today. If you did, I would love to hear from you. Just feel free to post a comment in the comment section below. God bless. Bye-bye.